Now we will study Coulomb's law. Coulomb, a French physicist, he has given an important law regarding the electrostatic force between two charged objects. Now consider an object here. Assume that it is charged, having some charge. Now this object which is charged is considered as a point object only when its size is very small compared to the distance at which we are going to calculate the force. If this distance is larger compared to the size of the object, then that charged object is taken as a point charge. That is the meaning of point charge. Now if you have 2 point charges, then they are going to experience a force among them, between them. Now the Coulomb's law, he has taken 2 charges. Now here is some charge Q1 and here is another charge Q2. Now we are going to have an electrostatic force between them. Now that force is either attractive if the 2 charges are unlike charges, or repulsive if the 2 charges are like charges. Now if they are separated by a certain distance r, then there obviously an electrostatic force. The magnitude of this electrostatic force is given by the Coulomb's law statement. This Coulomb's law states that the electrostatic force between any 2 point charges placed in air or vacuum or free space is directly proportional to the product of the magnitude of the 2 charges and inversely proportional to square of the distance of separation between the 2 charges, and it takes place along the direction of the line joining the 2 charges. That is the statement of Coulomb's law. Now consider 2 point charges Q1 and Q2. They are separated by a distance r as shown in the diagram. Obviously there is an electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion depending on the kinds of charges. The magnitude of the force is given by, according to Coulomb's law, the first point, the magnitude of the force is directly proportional to the product of magnitude of the 2 charges. Now Q1 is one charge and Q2 is another charge, and their magnitude is denoted by like this. The product of magnitude of the 2 charges is represented by Q1 and Q2. That is in direct proportional to the electrostatic force between the 2 charges. That is the first point in Coulomb's law statement. The second point states that this same electrostatic force, either attractive or repulsive depending on the kind of charges, is inversely proportional to the square of the distance of separation between the 2 charges. That is inversely proportional to r square, inverse square dependence. And this force is a vector quantity, therefore its direction is along the line joining. That force acts along the line joining the 2 charges. It is acting along this line only. So since it is acting along this line, it is called a central force. Central force. The meaning of central force means the force between the 2 point charges is acting along the line joining the 2 centers of the charges. Therefore, it is also called as a central force. Now, the force between 2 point charges directly proportional to product of magnitude of the 2 charges and inversely proportional to the square of distance of separation. As we increase the distance, what about the force? It goes on decreasing inverse square dependence. Because of the inverse square dependence, we are having an exponential decay. Now simply we will write, if this is the distance r and this is the force, we have an exponential decay curve. In this, as the distance increases, the force goes on decreases in this fashion. So combining these 2 points, I am going to get the magnitude of the force F is proportional to, so Q1, Q2 divided by R square. Now I am replacing the proportionality sign by placing a proportionality constant. Therefore, F is equal to K into Q1, Q2 divided by R square. Now this is the electrostatic force between 2 point charges when they are separated by a certain distance R. Now here K is a proportionality constant. Charles Coulomb, a French physicist, he first obtained this relation and also has conducted some experiment to get this relation by using a sensitive device called torsional balance. He used this torsional balance and determined the force between different kinds of charged objects. And finally, he arrived at this relation. Now, initially, what he has made, he took 2 identical spheres which are identically charged. Okay, assume that it is charged to Q, and the same identical sphere, one more, it is charged Q. They are separated by a certain distance R. He worked out the force between them. Then he took 2 more identical spheres, and this sphere is identical to this one, but this is uncharged. He touched the uncharged sphere to the first sphere. Then what about the charge on these 2 spheres? It becomes Q by 2, half of that one. Since they are identical in shape and size and everything, when this identical sphere, which is initially uncharged, is touched to the first sphere, the charges are equally shared. Therefore, charge on this one also becomes Q by 2, and the charge on the uncharged sphere is also becomes Q by 2. Now he brought these 2 spheres with the same distance, and he worked out the force. And similarly, he has done the same thing. He took another uncharged identical sphere, he touched to this sphere, then the charges are equally shared. That means charges once again becomes hollowed, that is 1/4. And he took one more sphere and placed it at the constant distance and worked out what is the force. Okay. And also he has taken 2 charged spheres with charges same and distance varied. First time he has some distance. In the next time, with the same identical charged spheres, he varied the distance. In the next time, he further increased the distance. Like this, he has conducted this experiment by using torsional balance and found the relation among the charges, the distance, and the force, and concludes that the magnitude of the electrostatic force between 2 point charges placed in an air or space medium, air or vacuum medium, is directly proportional to product of the magnitude of the 2 charges and inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. And he formulated this Coulomb's law. Now we have got here some constant K, proportionality constant, and with this relation he is going to define the unit of charge. The unit of charge is named on behalf of Coulomb. Therefore, unit of charge is Coulomb. Now, in SI units, the value of K is found out. It is 9 into 10 to the power of 9. value of K is found in SI. If you have taken SI units, then K value is found to be 9 into 10 to the power of 9. With that one, he is going to define 1 coulomb. Now, how you are going to define 1 coulomb? Now, in this relation, if I take Q1 is equal to 1 coulomb and Q2 also is equal to 1 coulomb, if we have taken 2 point charges having 1 coulomb each, and if they are separated by a distance of 1 meter apart, then if I substitute this one, all these things, then what I am going to get? Q1 is 1, it is 1, and it's also 1. Therefore, K is 9 into 10 to the power of 9. Now we can define 1 coulomb. Now 1 coulomb is a charge which is placed at a distance of 1 meter apart from a similar charge. Then it experiences an electrostatic force of repulsion of magnitude 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton. That is the definition of 1 coulomb. Now, the value of K in SI units is found to be 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, and that value is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9. 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton meter square. Its value is, its unit is Newton meter square per coulomb square. It's unit. So here the proportionality constant found the value K is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. Here epsilon naught is called permittivity. Of free space, air or vacuum or free space, permittivity epsilon naught. The notation epsilon naught is called permittivity of the free space. What is the meaning of permittivity? It is the ability of the medium to allow electric field to pass. Ability of the medium to allow electric field lines to pass through it, and that is called as permittivity. And the value of permittivity epsilon naught is found to be 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12. 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12, unit becomes coulomb square per Newton meter square. That is the unit of permittivity. So therefore, the Coulomb's law becomes, after substituting this value, Coulomb's law becomes, therefore F, Coulomb's force becomes 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by R square. So that is the electrostatic force between 2 point charges. Now epsilon naught is permittivity. Now let me work out the dimension of permittivity. Now from this relation, the permittivity is given by, so Q1 Q2 divided by F R square. Since we are finding out this dimension, okay, dimension of charge, that is A into T, current multiplied by the time, because current I is equal to Q by T, therefore Q is equal to I into T. By using this relation, the dimension of charge is A, ampere, and T, that is time, into A into T divided by dimension of force, we know M L square, M L T raised to minus 2, dimension of force, and R square, distance square, is L square. Now therefore the dimension of epsilon naught, that is permittivity, is found to be M comes to the numerator, M to the power of minus 1, L square, that is L cube, comes to the numerator, L to the power of minus 3, t square, and in the denominator we are having t to the power of minus 2. If come to the numerator, therefore it is t to the power of 4 and a into a, that is ampere square. So this is the dimension of permittivity. Since electrostatic force is a vector quantity, let me write Coulomb's law in vector form. For that one, once again consider 2 point charges. So here is Q1 and here is Q2. Okay. Now consider some origin here. With respect to that origin, we have position vector of Q1 as R1 and position vector of Q2 as R2. Okay. Then the distance of separation between the two charges by vector rotation from Q1 charge to the Q2 charge, let me write it as R21. R21 is the position vector from Q1 charge to the Q2 charge. With vector notation, we have R21, vector R21 can be written as vector R2 minus vector R1 that we know. Now, let me define the force in vector form F21. Now here it is force on the second charge Q2 due to the charge Q1. Force on second charge Q2 due to the charge Q1 is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into the two charges Q1, Q2 divided by square of the position vector, that is R21 square. Since left hand side force is a vector quantity, the right hand side should be a vector quantity. Therefore, we are using a unit vector R21 cap. Where R21 cap is a unit vector, it is along Q1 to the charge Q2. Now, this is the vector notation of Coulomb's law. So therefore, Q2 experiences a force F21 due to the charge Q1. The direction of F21 is along this direction, F21, it is acting. Since we have considered both are same kind of charges, there is a repulsive force. If these two charges are unlike charges, then this force is acted towards Q1. Okay. So similarly, we can define the one more force F12 in the vector notation, where F12 is force on the first charge due to the second charge. That can be written as in vector notation as 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by R12 square, where R12 is the position vector from second charge Q2 to the first charge Q1 with unit vector R12 cap. Now here, look here. Now these two vectors are same in magnitude but opposite in direction. That is R21 cap should be having the same magnitude of R12, but it is in opposite direction. With this relation, we can conclude that F21 force on the second charge due to the first charge is same as force on the first charge due to the second charge, but it is in opposite direction. Therefore, F21 is equal to minus of F12, we can write. Now this electrostatic force, now these pair of forces are similar to that of Newtonian forces. That is, according to Newton's third law, to every reaction there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the same manner, here we are having these two forces are equal but opposite in direction. Now, From this one, these two forces are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Therefore, this Coulomb force is also said as Newtonian forces, since they are satisfying Newton's third law. And second one, what is the direction of this F12? Direction of F12 is along this direction, F12. For the like charges, the force is repulsive. For unlike charges, the force is attractive. For like charges, F is repulsive, acting away from each other. For unlike charges, F is attractive. That is, those two forces acting towards each other if for the unlike charges. The third one is interesting one. While defining Coulomb's law, we have placed these 2 point charges in air or vacuum medium, whose permittivity is given by epsilon naught. If I place the same 2 charges in a medium other than air or vacuum, if I place it in a medium, is there any change in the magnitude of the force? Obviously, there is a decrease in the magnitude of forces. So, if I place the same 2 charges in a medium, then the magnitude of force is given by F is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. Along with the epsilon naught, I have to introduce one more term called epsilon r, that is relative permittivity of the medium, and the rest of the thing is same, q1 q2 divided by r square, general expression. Now this is the expression for force between the 2 point charges which are placed in a medium whose relative permittivity is epsilon r, where epsilon r is relative permittivity. Sometimes it is also denoted by the letter K. Therefore, it is also called as dielectric coefficient. It is also called as dielectric coefficient or dielectric constant. One more name is there for that one. Specific inductive capacity of the medium. All the 4 names are similar. Whenever 2 charges are placed in a medium, then the force is given by this one, and here epsilon r, it is relative permittivity, or it is also called as dielectric coefficient or dielectric constant or specific inductive capacity of the medium. So now obviously this force is lesser in magnitude whenever the same 2 point charges are placed at the same distance in air or vacuum medium. If I write F is the force between 2 charges in air or vacuum medium, 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into q1 q2 divided by r square. Now if those 2 point charges are placed in a medium of dielectric constant K or relative permittivity epsilon r, then I will write the new force as F dash 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into epsilon r q1 q2 divided by r square. Okay, F dash is the new force. Now from this relation, if you take the ratio of F divided by F dash, if you take the ratio F divided by F dash, I will get epsilon r. If you take F divided by F dash, I will get the ratio epsilon r. Now we can define relative permittivity is the ratio of force between 2 point charges when placed in air or vacuum medium to the force between the same 2 point charges placed at the same distance in a medium. So that defines relative permittivity of the medium. Now just now we have studied the electrostatic force or Coulomb force between 2 point charges. Now we are going to study force between multiple charges. If there are more than 2 charges, how we are going to work out the force among them? For that one, we are going to make use of principle of superposition. Now what this principle of superposition says, if we are having a system of charges, then force on any one charge due to the other charges is the vector sum of forces between pair of charges taken one at a time. So that means, in order to explain this one, let me consider 3 charges. Now let me write here. Now here we are having the first charge Q1. Let me take here some charge Q2. Now here let me take another charge Q3. I have 3 different charges Q1, Q2, Q3 for simplicity. Now here is some origin. With respect to the origin, let me write the position vectors. Now this is vector R1. Now this is vector R2. And this is vector R3. These are with the position vectors. Now the distance between these two, let me write this one as R12. Vector R12, it is the distance of charge Q2 towards Q1. The position vector of Q3 towards Q1. It can be written as R13 vector. Now here we are having a system of 3 charges. Now first we have to apply principle of superposition. What this says, if we consider the force on the first charge due to the remaining 2 charges, it is the vector sum of force between these 2 charges plus force between Q1 and Q3. That is the meaning of superposition, of principle of superposition. Now let me take the force on first Q1 charge due to the second charge, that is Q2. It can be written as 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. So it is obviously Q1 Q2 divided by R12 square with R12 cap unit vector. That means first we are considering the 2 charges only. Assume that there is no third charge. Then by applying just Coulomb's law, we are getting the force between them. Now what is the direction of the force? If you consider all are having the same kind of charges, it is obviously repulsive. The force is F12 along that direction. Okay. Now let us assume that Q2 is not there, only Q1 and Q3 are there. Now the force between those 2 charges according to Coulomb's law, that is F13. Let me write it as vector F13 is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q3 divided by R13 square into R13 cap, where R13 cap is a unit vector along Q1 Q3 to Q1. Now this force is along this direction, F1, 3. Now here one thing you should remember, the force between Q1 and Q2 is not altered by the presence of other charges. This Q3, presence of Q3 will not alter the force between Q1 and Q2. It remains the same. Similarly, the force between Q1 and Q3, it remains a constant. Even there is other charges around it. The presence of other charges will not disturb the force between any pair of charges. So that is according to principle of superposition. Now what is the total force on Q1 due to these two charges, Q2 and Q3? It is the vector sum. Therefore total force F1 is equal to F12, vector F12 plus vector F13. So therefore vector F1, force on the first charge due to the system of charges, is 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. So Q1 Q2 divided by R12 square into R12 cap plus 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q3 divided by R13 square into R13 cap. Like that we are going to have the vector addition of forces. Now how can you find the resultant of these two? The resultant of these two is obtained by the parallelogram law of vector addition. If you construct a parallelogram, then the diagonal of this one represents the resultant of these two forces. That is the meaning of principle of superposition. Now if you consider, instead of 3 charges, we are having a system of n number of charges. If you are having an n number of charges, Q1, Q2, Q3, etc., Qn number of charges, then what is the force? The total force or net force according to principle of superposition, it can be written as between first pair of charges, the same thing, Q1, Q2 divided by R12 square into R12 cap plus 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, this term Q1, Q3 divided by R13 square into R13 cap. Now this continues till we are having the last one, 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Qn divided by R1n square into R1n cap. Now we are getting n number of terms, or we can simply write the force, total force F1 is equal to, now 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught is common, let me take it out, 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. Now I am using sigma notation, sigma Q1 Qi divided by R1I square into R1I cap. Now this is the resultant force when n number of charges are present. So here I takes the values 2 to n. I is not taking 1, I is taking 2 to n. Now this is the resultant force acting on the charge Q1 for a system of n number of particles, and its direction is calculated as usually we are using this parallelogram law of vector addition. So that is forces between multiple charges. Let me solve one problem. 3 charges Q1, Q2, Q3 each equal to Q are placed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle of side L as shown in the diagram. What is the force on a charge capital Q having the same sign as that of small q placed at the centroid of the triangle? So they have given an equilateral triangle. At the vertices, 3 charges are placed. All charges are equal and equal to small letter q. Now they are going to place one more charge capital Q at the centroid. What is the centroid? The line joining the midpoint of a side to the opposite vertex. Now if the D is the midpoint of BC, now this point D midpoint is going to join to the opposite vertex A, and this line AD is called median. Now intersection of all these medians at a point O, and that point we call it as centroid. At this centroid, they have placed another charge, capital Q. Now, what is the force on this capital Q charge? That we are going to find out. In order to find the force, we have to calculate what is the distance AO, BO, and CO. In order to find that distance, first we have to calculate what is the distance AD. Now, each side is of length L. Since D is the midpoint, then what is this distance DC? L by 2. Now I have to calculate what is AD. From the right angle triangle ADC, by using Pythagoras theorem, so AC square is equal to AD square plus DC square. AC square, it is L square, is equal to AD square, that you have to work out. DC, L by 2, that is L square divided by 4. Therefore, what is AD square? It is L square minus L square divided by 4, that is 3 by 4 L square, AD square length. But we require AD. Therefore, the length of the median AD is found to be root 3 by 2 into L. But we required AO. Now we already studied in high school that the centroid of a triangle divides the median in the ratio of 2:1. You should remember that. Centroid of a triangle divides the median in the ratio of 2:1. So from this concept, then what is AO? Therefore, AO can be written as it is 2 by 3 of AD, because centroid divides the median in the ratio of 2:1. Therefore, this is 2 part and this is 1 part. Therefore, 2 by 3 into AD, that is 2 by 3 into AD. Just we have worked out root 3 by 2 into L. Now 2 get cancels, root 3 get cancels. Therefore, AO becomes L by root 3. Since it is an equilateral triangle, so BO is also L by root 3 and CO is also L by root 3. After finding these distances, now we have to work out force on capital Q placed at the centroid due to the charges at 3 vertices. Okay. Now let me take the force F1. Now F1 is the force between the capital Q charge and the small q charge which is placed at the vertex. So that is given by 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1, that is Q, Q2, that is capital Q charge, divided by distance AO square. AO square. Okay. Now substitute the value small q, capital Q divided by AO. This is L by 3, that is L square by 3. It is L by root 3 whole square ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ L square by 3 ಬರ್ತದೆ. Therefore we get F1 is equal to 3 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught small q capital Q divided by L square. Since these two are having the same kind of charges, the force is repulsive. It is acting along AD direction. This is F1. Force acting along AD direction. Similarly, find F2. You will get the same value. 3 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught small q capital Q divided by L square. Now this is along AO or AD. Now this is along BO. AO, let me write it as AO. It is along BO and F3. It is also same. 3 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught small q capital Q divided by L square along C. Now this is F1 acting here and F2 is acting here and F3 is acting here. Now let me find the resultant of these two, F2 and F3. If you find the resultant of these two, F2 and F3, since these two are equal, they are equal in magnitude, the resultant of them is along this one. Let me write the force F4 is resultant of F2 and F3. Now the resultant of F2 and F3 is determined by using the parallelogram law of vector addition. So from that notation, therefore F4 can be written as square root of F2 square plus F3 square plus 2 into F2 F3 into cos, the angle between them is 120 degrees. Now these two are equal in magnitude. Okay, so if I write their magnitudes are is equal to simply F. Okay, then if I write it as F square plus 2 F square, cos 120 is 180 minus 60. Therefore cos 60 is minus half. So therefore F4 is equal to 1 get cancels. Therefore I am going to get F that is same as this magnitude. F4 is also having the same magnitude, 3 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught small q capital Q divided by L square. Now F4 force is acting upwards and F1 force is acting downwards. Therefore resultant of F1 and F4, since those two are equal in magnitude but acting exactly opposite to each other, the resultant force is 0. So that means the charge capital Q which is placed at the centroid, which is at equidistance from the three equal charges, the force on that charge capital Q is 0.